All right. Hello. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Lunch Learn. I'm Jeremy. I'll be leading our call today. So if you've got any questions, please feel free to start posting them in the Q&A. I'd be happy to get to them if we got a chance, when we get a chance. So please start posting your questions. Happy to discuss whatever we need to. In the meantime, let me run through the usual things, highlight some of the things we've got coming up, and that kind of thing, because it's nothing too crazy. So going over the usual stuff, decision support, our a training YouTube channel. A lot of good stuff on there that we've been posting more content recently. So definitely some good things to highlight if you're interested or curious about learning different things in decisions. Please check out our YouTube channel. Um, we also have our solutions marketplace, great place if you're looking for different applications and things to try out, or just kind of curious about some things, could give you some inspiration, or maybe something that you just want to use. I know quite a few people do install some of those things that we have available. And then events. There's nothing super interesting coming up at all other than our biweekly product roadmaps. So in that case, if you are curious about things that may be coming up in decisions, to ask questions or anything like that, you can join those webinars at decisions.com/events. Um, so otherwise, that is pretty much all of the main things to highlight there. So let me switch my screen. Just as a quick highlight on our YouTube channel in case you're curious about some of the things we've got. Recently, we've put up a couple things with like page variables. We've got hidden entities if you're curious about the different things that are hidden in decisions and some things you can do with those. We just today put up a Kafka module video. So if you're curious about that. We also have a playlist that we've added about the profiler in decisions. So a bunch of videos, short videos, nothing too long, just about how the profiler works and if you're curious about how to use the profiler. So definitely check those things out if you've got any interest. But with that in mind, we're going to jump to our questions. So we do have one question in the Q&A. Just keep in mind again, if you have any additional questions, please feel free to add them in the Q&A and I can talk to them once we're done with our first one. So our first question does come from Helmet, so I'll give you the chance to speak if you want to add, but let me read the question out loud. We are trying to use more case entities in our development. When I created one, I immediately see the case editor. We do not currently utilize process mining systems, so is the case editor not relevant then? Or is it still a valuable tool to administrate case entities as they move?
Hey,
Uh,
yeah, so I know that we use most all of our applications use flow extension or flow FEEs, you know what I mean?
yeah, flow execution extensions. Yep.
Yeah, it's a mouthful. And I know I know we're moving away from those when it gets into version 9. And so I'm building a new application. I wanted to start using the case entity and like my question says, the case editor showed up. It looks like there's, abilities and such that I haven't seen before with an FEE that, might let me see, these case entities in their process. Yeah, just like this. It
That's what
looks
you're talking
like
about?
there's a lot here, but for us, it says process mining is not enabled on the decisions portal. So is there anything of value here, or is it something I can completely, not pay any attention to, or is there anything cool you can show me that you're like, no, you definitely should, utilize this or utilize that?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, process mining is not necessary. So the one thing with case entities and process mining is if you decide to use process mining maybe down the line, or especially for people that are immediately interested in using process mining, case entities are required in order to actually have that connection to like work properly.
Yeah.
Like this is specifically saying to get insights because there's a lot of things that process mining can do to help you get like ideas like predictions of the future if you look at how the states are currently being used and like how long things have been in states and handoffs between from one state to the next.
Right.
Process mining helps with that, but that's really it. Like it's a completely different system. Everything else like up here, all of this information is just other capabilities that you can use in decisions. You don't need process mining to get a lot out of them. In fact, we use quite a few of them in some of our other training projects to highlight some of the capabilities you have in this editor. And case entities aren't the only data types that have this configuration folder associated with them. There's others as well, like the folder extensions have these and different things. But essentially, they just have the ability to attach additional elements to your case entity structure itself. So then when you have like your folders and things, you can actually adjust like what is available to them. Um, so for example, so you can set pages so that you'll have a page on every single, like a default page that would appear on every single case entity folder. So if you like have a folder with a bunch of like case entities in it, you could have that dashboard appear under all of those folders. Like that's one example. There's a lot of actions you can do, so you can actually create your own custom actions. So, like when I right click this, I have all of these actions, but I can add additional ones. So if I want to say, hey, in my cases folder, if I want an additional action, like other than just changing state to say, I want a user to be able to sign a document by clicking on this action, I can add actions there to do that.
Yeah.
And things like that. Triggers is another really popular one we do have in our systems where you can set up trigger flows, which is actually what I have right here in this example, where basically what it means is as soon as something tells this case entity to reach this state, it'll run the trigger flows that are under that state. So like maybe my main process kicks off, saves my case entity and says, okay, now set the state to in progress. Then once it sets the state to in progress, it's going to run any of the flows that I have set as trigger flows on the in progress state. So even with if I'm not using process mining to track this, I can say, hey, I just want you to run and kick off this next process to now start running this flow. And I think this is just a demo, so there's probably nothing useful in it. But
Right.
like I have like the ability to do that. Um, we've got you can set like validation rules and flows onto this. There's also visibility rules that you can set. So you can set, certain users are, only able to see certain actions on that entity, as well as certain pages. Um, like if I open, let me show this as an example. So like we have this types of loans folder, and each of these are like the individuals. These are folder extensions, but you could do the same thing with a case entity.
Hmm.
These are the folders that fit underneath them. If I click on these, there is a default page that has a bunch of graphs set up and a report that's attached to them.
Hmm.
And then we have a filter on these reports that only show the current folder's data. So then I would only see data related to the items in this folder. And then I switch to this one and I only see the data with items in this folder. And I switch to this one
Understand.
and I only see that. So like I have the ability to adjust that. And that's all coming completely out of the configuration folder here because I have these pages that are added to it. Um, we have another project. This one is I-9s. It's about signing I-9 applications. Um, and here we've got a bunch of actions. These are all user actions that are on here. So you have a right clickable action to view a document, a right clickable action to sign the document, or for an HR member to assist with signing a document for if
Hmm.
someone's like doesn't speak English or whatever.
Yeah.
But then we have visibility rules on this to say, hey, if the person's in the HR group, then they only see the assist with signing action. They don't see the signed document action. And then the other way around, if they're an employee and they're not in HR, I only want them to be able to sign a document, not assist to signing and different things like that. So you can
Okay.
easily hide and show these different controls. So there's definitely a lot of power in the case entities that have absolutely nothing to do with process mining. Process mining
Gotcha.
is like a separate thing that's just tracking your states. All of
Hmm.
these actions up here are just the various like great powers and things that you can, really allow your case entities and your actions and
Yeah.
things to use.
So, because yeah, I guess the way I'm understanding it is that with an FEE, you would have all these user actions. You might have flows that you run at certain times, kind of like you just showed me, but they're more or
Mhm.
less just kind of all in the configuration folder, just for you to kind of organize and do whatever you like with them.
Yeah.
But here with this case editor, I guess it's giving you a little bit. It's giving you a little bit. More information about what happens when. It's giving you a bit of organizational ability as well, and then as well with the pages and stuff. So
Mhm.
it's just giving you some more tools is kind of what I'm understanding.
Mhm.
Yeah. Is there like a video or a YouTube something? Because I looked on the documentation and as specifically on how to utilize the case editor, there wasn't a whole lot. So I was wondering if there was anything else video
Um,
wise.
I can check. Maybe Gregory, do you mind just taking a quick look and seeing if you can find if we have one on that and post it in the chat if we do?
As far as the case entity actions,
Yeah, anything like that.
I'm looking for it right now.
Yeah. And then I'll move on to the next question for now, and then we can get back if you have more. But
No,
hopefully
yeah,
we'll
that
at least have
that
a
more or
video for
less
you.
answers my question.
Cool. Great. All right. Well, got another question that's similar to case entities, so I can go continue from that. But it's from Grant, asking about in your cases folder with your cases, how do you empty that folder? So you just mean like if I have a folder full of case entities, how do I clear out everything in here? Is that what you mean? Yes. Um, So you do have to make sure that you have the ability to actually delete things in your case entities. And there's a couple ways that you can do that. Like you'll see right now, if I right click this, like I have this case entity here, I don't have the ability to remove this or anything like that. But a lot of that just comes down to how you built your data structure. So I think I don't remember if it's this data type or not. But if I oops, that's the configuration folder. If I go and I edit this structure here, on a lot of your entities, there's a lot of properties here on the right side. When you're creating your data structure, if you scroll down near the bottom, there's an actions section. And in quite a few of the data structures, especially the higher level ones like folder extensions and case entities, the actually show delete action is off by default. So in a lot of things like this, if I were to change this and allow this to show the delete action, as well as like, edit, the ability to move, different things like that, then if I go in here and I right click, so I did that, yep, more, and now I actually have the delete option here. So then I can delete that. So yeah, there's a lot of them, quite a few of them, especially the ones that are storing folders and things like that, that they do have that that action to it. Like case entities was one example. I believe folder extensions is similar, where there's actions here on the side that you can add. So if you want to give someone the ability to delete things, edit things, or whatever on a right click, you can do that. But by default, they're off. Yeah, okay. No, of course, happy to show it. All right. Okay, we've got another question. This time from Robert. And got a lot of people in the call here today. So I'll just quickly say again, this is currently our last question queued up, but if anyone else has additional questions, please feel free to type them up, put them in the Q&A, and I'd be happy to discuss. But let's get on to our question from Robert. I'll let you talk as well, Robert, if you have anything you want to add about this. Let me read it out loud first. If a flow step is instantiating a data variable, but the step also gets looped to, is it better to use the rename or change value for the output variable?
And the one I'm kind of thinking of right now is we're exporting the outcome path name from a form, but that form can be reused in the flow. If someone saves, goes back to the form, and so just is it better to just have that outcome path name just be renamed each time, or just set it up to change the value, basically?
Got it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I haven't. I see this a lot because we have some examples in some of our training material that does similar things. Where like if you do like an add item to list step, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to add to itself, if it's part of a loop, I could just use this output as rename new list, and I can choose new list as the input for the list that it builds upon. And in this case, this does the exact same thing. It's going to initially be a blank list and then slowly build off of it without overwriting anything and just kind of build my new list. Or if I have some variable that I want to set from it, I guess this would have to be a list. You can make it like that. And then I could say on this add item to list step, the list that I wanted to build is going to be this set variable list. And then the output, I would want to change value of said list. So you're saying like kind of between those two options, that's what you're looking at?
Kind of. So it's
And I know more in a more specific use case with your form and stuff.
yeah, it's hard to explain because I haven't really come across this too much.
Yeah. My best guess, specifically, I would think the change variable or change value is most likely still going to be better, more on the not confusing it and trying to make sure that you don't get things mixed up kind of aspect
Yeah.
of it.
I guess my concern is if it's the first time it's being instantiated, but it's set to change value, is there going to be a value for it to change? Is that going to throw an error, or is it?
In most cases, it shouldn't. Usually, you're just setting a value, and that value is just going to be null. So as long as it's not trying to like, and I mean, just a quick test should be enough to say if it tries to pull from that null value and it's a step that, because every now and then there are steps that if they try to pull from some blank value, they throw an error. Then, obviously, yeah, then you're setting that variable blank is obviously an option that you don't want to have. If it is something that needs to like take in a value, there may be a constant value you could use that doesn't mess with your process either. But yeah, I think sometimes you just might need to be a little careful with that. I think a quick test should help. I think Jeremy in the call also has something to add, so I'll let him speak up
Yeah,
here.
I do this a lot where I have an add item to list in a for each, and you can set, even you don't even need the create data ahead of time. Can you click on the add item to list
Yeah.
step? You can even, since it's in the loop, you can do the original list as the output list of the for each and then change value, and it will just iterate through that without error.
Okay, yeah. So like if you say the original list is list one, but this is the first time list one has ever been shown,
Yeah, it'll just
so
add the
the
new
change
item
value
to
won't
that
matter
empty
because
list.
it's even though there's no list one yet, the change value is still going to work.
Yeah.
Okay, so it should work the same for like an outcome path name from a form, even if there's the first time
Yeah, if you start
being
with the
used.
outcome path of something else and you change value, even if it starts null, the add item to list shouldn't throw an error. I have
Okay.
not seen it do that before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course. All right. And we've got another question. So we got a question from Justin. I'll let you talk if you have any expansions, but curious to see more about what Decisions has for being able to sign documents. Yeah, we've got quite a few different, there's definitely a lot of different ways you can work with signing documents. So it's kind of, really just depends on what you're looking for. But I'm assuming part of that comes from, I showed off our signed document flow on this. So this is one of our training projects that we do utilize a kind of manual signed document process inside our process here. So we have a flow where the whole idea here is we're generating an I-9 document. So then a user could, when they're ready, go into their document and sign it. And so we have a signed document form that we've created here, which has a document viewer that display the document that the user might want to actually like look at, so they can see their I-9 with all their data and everything to confirm, oh, XYZ is all correct. I validated all my information. On forms, we have a signature pad that you could use. So you can take your signature pad, drag it into your form, and that's the item that a user would fill out when they're completing the form. They'll just have that, use their cursor or whatever to sign their form and fill it out, and then they hit submit. And then what this does is it'll output a signature. It's a data type called signature pad info, but it outputs this signature. And then what we do, in our case at least, since we use it as a PDF, we have this add image to PDF step. And the signature data, the output of this signature, we can actually just use the raw data, which is a list of bytes, that can then just get passed into a step that can take in a list of bytes. In Decisions, file data is a list of bytes combined with a name, a file name. So we just grab that list of bytes, give it a file name, and then that will actually place the signature directly onto the PDF with the add image to PDF step. And this step also lets you pick exactly where it belongs. So you can, mess with this to figure out like what's your width and height of this so that it looks normal. Where exactly you position it on the PDF and what page, and it'll place the signature directly onto the page, exactly where you want it. So that's kind of how our training system works. So you can easily just sign that and set it up. That's if you want to use like signatures fully in decisions, using decisions forms, throwing them onto a Word document or a PDF or something like that to get the data out there, exactly where you want to have that. In addition to that, there's other things, I know there's a lot of like popular modules and things out there. A lot of people like using DocuSign and different things like that. So in addition to, doing everything fully in decisions, we also have ways to, download the DocuSign module, for example, if you want to use DocuSign and connect with that. And this helps you easily connect to DocuSign to send data out there and get signatures and everything like that generated as well. So there's a few options for you there if you're kind of interested in a couple different ways to set up signatures. Okay. We've got another question. What would be the best approach when trying to create and start case entity processes from an API call to get the data from an external database? So let me see. When you're saying get the data from an external database, you're saying like you want to pull data from a database and then save that data as a case entity? Is that what you mean?
Yes. So basically do an API call to, query a external database and pull the data from that we need for the case entity, and then create new ones and like start the process. And this is like a scheduled job, to see if there's been any new updates to the database.
Well, let's see here. I don't know if I necessarily know, maybe not the best way, but obviously you have to set off your case entity. If you're using a case entity, the easiest way is to just go down to your user defined types and you have case entities and there's a create, case entity step where you can, set up your extension data to get all of your elements that you need to build up for it. And then you've also got whatever you're calling, in whatever way. It depends on what exactly you're using. If you have like an
It's a
external
REST
database,
service.
that you have a REST service that's getting
Yeah.
it. Okay. So if you have that, do I have any REST services on here? I do have a quick example one. So like, you have your REST service that's going to output your data. However it's going to output, you would have to take that data and change it, or, be able to break it apart through decisions in some way.
Yeah, I think I was able to do it with JSON deserializing or whatnot.
Yep. Yeah. So, if you have something like that, a deserialized step, or, your own data structure or something that you want to place it into, you can simply just grab that, deserialize your item, and then it should just output it into the individualized pieces that you want. And then from there, it just would be simply grabbing, grabbing the, each individual item from your deserialize in whatever way you need.
And then, so yeah, that I guess I kind of already knew this part, but then if it's like to then automatically like start in a process of like approvals and updates, is that something to be set up in the like case entity configuration folder? Like is that like an on start like trigger
Yeah.
flow or
So basically once you do this, you create a case entity, your once it gets created, your case entity is going to be in the default started phase. So as soon as the case entity gets created, it's going to be this state. So then from there, you have a couple options. You can either keep that main flow where you created your case entity, and continue through that process. Like after it does the create case entity, it goes through some more steps to do some things to it. Or you could set a trigger on the started if you want to do the here and set up a trigger flow and say, hey, once this gets started, I want to build my start trigger flow, and then that trigger flow is going to start building up your process, maybe send some assignments, whatever. At the end it'll reach a step that says now set the state to in progress, and then it'll move on to the next step, and maybe there's trigger flows there. So it's kind of two options. You can add a trigger flow right here, and this just means as soon as it gets created, it will be in started, so it should activate those trigger flows. Or on the other hand, you have something like this. This is just another example that I have where we have the create step, and then afterwards we do just a couple quick things and then set the state to one of the other states in the process. Like in this case, afterwards, we don't actually do anything with it. We just throw an end form to the user and then set the state to a later process. So in this use case, we don't really need anything to trigger off the started state. So once it actually gets created, we set it to the next state and say, okay, now set my state to this. And so then it just goes immediately to the next state in the process to then kick off the triggers. But if you do want more to come after initiating that process and starting it, you can either do it in the main flow or you can set a trigger on the start state.
Okay.
And do that from there.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right. At the moment, we are caught up on questions. If we got additional questions, still happy to discuss anything. Feel free to post them in the chat. I'll give it just like a minute or two if anyone's got anything or wants to add anything here. James, raising your hand. Go ahead, James.
Hey, since we had some time, I had a quick question about something that's been bothering me. I don't know if there's a solution to this or not, but
Okay.
with image files, even in version 9, it looks like they're only set up at the system level. Correct? Like if you want to have custom image files that you can access, that's only done at the system level, right? You can't do that within your projects. In other words, to migrate them up the stack, you have to do that at the system level only, right?
I believe so. I've
Yeah,
never messed
I
with
couldn't
it, but I'm
find it,
fairly
so-
certain there's nothing on the
Yeah,
project level for those.
yeah. Do you know of a reason why we can't do that at the project level? Because it's a pain to manage to manage those things, in each environment when they're, that seems to me to be something that you should be able to migrate up to your different environments. Is there a specific reason why they don't allow images? I mean, I guess I could throw this to support if
Yeah,
need to
I
ask
mean,
that
I
question.
could ask about it. To my knowledge, I don't know why they wouldn't be able to, unless
Yeah.
I mean, it's very possible it's either an oversight or something that they didn't think would be
Yeah.
as common of a use case or something, or maybe
Yeah,
why it's initially not in there.
Yeah,
But
that's something definitely we could use because, we do on our projects to kind of help with visually cueing. We do use that image on the projects.
Mhm.
And we have our custom images that, like us, that we use for that. And right now we don't have a way to move those up with our, we have a lot of custom images we would like to use in our forms, etc., emails. To be able to call those into those, and we can't do that right now. Without, doing it through the system. We can't do it in a project and just move them up, and we have to do extra things to get those moved up. So
Right.
also with the images, I'm not sure if this is I can ask this again too to support, but I'm not sure why they only allow SVG images to be selected. You can't put a JPEG or a PNG in the images, like your custom images,
Mm-hmm.
and select it. It only allows the SVG files to be selected. You can put them in there, but you can't select them.
Really interesting.
Yeah. And I'm not quite sure if there's a reason behind that, because it,
Well, I don't know what their reason is, but SVGs are scalable.
yeah, I know
And
that.
being able
Yeah,
to do that, if you set a JPEG and it's itty bitty and you try and blow that up, or vice versa, it distorts the images, where SVGs won't distort the image as it changes size throughout the environment.
right. And I get that. That makes sense. But like for thumbnails and stuff, they're going to be small to begin with, and like icons and things. I just don't know why we couldn't, because we don't always have access to an SVG version. I guess we could find some kind of converter. I was just curious as to, you know, if we're using a custom image and we put it on a page, let's say, uh, we can tell if we don't like the scalability of that or not. I don't know why you need to, why decisions would prohibit us from putting those types of images there.
According to our doc site, it does support them. I just don't know why it
Yeah,
wouldn't necessarily
that's why I'm
work.
confused about that. I I don't know why they don't show up though in when you're trying to select them, like in when you're trying to select that image, and you
Mhm.
say what's the thing on file or whatever it is, it's um when you're actually trying to select it,
Right, right.
doesn't allow you
Um,
to select it from your.
Vitali is asking, I'll let him speak if he wants to add, but he is asking also, why can't you just store them as documents in a project? Because if you store
Yeah,
them as documents, you could use that as well.
yes, that is something we thought. And matter of fact, that is a workaround we're doing right now. But since like I said, since we had some time, I don't know why that wouldn't be something, because you do allow image. We wouldn't have to do a whole thing with documents if we just had,
Right, if you could
A,
just do it.
images attached to your projects, and B, allow us to use, JPEG or PNG images in there. Yeah, there are ways to work around it. I was just more curious, is there a reason for that, or is that an oversight, or is that something we can maybe request to be put in? Because it would be
Yeah,
nicer to have those at the project level and just store them as images and be able to
right,
access.
right. Yeah. I'll ask why, see if there is a reason, and then I can get back if there is a reason not. And if there is not a reason, then maybe it's just something that they'll be able to add in a future update potentially.
Okay, cool. Yeah, just curious about that. That's all I had.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Any other thoughts? Happy to discuss. We still got some time. Can end early if needed, but we can also we still have some time to take a look as well. All right. Well, we've got nothing else. No other questions. We can go ahead and close off, end our lunch and learn for the day. Thank you all for joining. Again, I am Jeremy. We've got myself and Gregory leading still the rest of this week. So if you got any additional questions, please feel free to join. If you want to just watch, please also feel free to join. And chime in or see what other kind of questions people have. We'll continue the rest of this week, and we look forward to seeing you all next time. But have a great rest of your day, everybody.